I was just gonna do it live. I wasn't even thinking. Hi!
Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm not here. I'm actually working outside on a gas line. You know, last week you guys were all like, you girls, no girl needs makeup. So you're getting a literal comparison of what we look like with and without makeup. And I think maybe some of you might want to walk that back. I'm just
Michelle
saying.
doesn't. I do. It's always been a thing around here. Leah, why don't you wear some makeup?
Right. Well, my hair's always also back and everything like that as well. So let me pull up the chat for you.
You're in cognito.
I am incognito. So it's gonna be a great show. I hate to miss it. I'm so upset that I'm missing today's show. It's gonna be explosive. Leah's discovered some stuff.
Yeah, some video.
Are you gonna do the event too?
Yeah. No, not today. Another one.
You should at least tell
another
him.
Day, another time, another
Okay,
hour. We've got to go to Europe today.
All right, and I gotta go anyway. So let me just show you what you're gonna do. This is for sharing things. So when you want to go, you click screen share, and this will pull up this, and then you come here and just start typing in whatever you want to type in wherever you want to go.
And then I come back and say.
And then you come back and you go
main.
to the main.
Okay.
Main and screen share should be all you need to do. Plus, if you want to watch the chat, you go over to the Google icon and go down to the bottom. This will overlay over anything, but as soon as you click off of it, it goes away.
As soon as I click off of it?
As soon as you go to click something else, it goes away and you got to pull it back.
I got to keep you guys... Okay, so the show might not be as fast paced because I'm operating I'm like a DJ. 2 computers, bringing up a lot of stuff over here. I'm going to hopefully bring up some videos over here for you guys. How's everybody doing? God bless you guys. I know that there's a lot on people's minds. I know there's a lot on my mind, and I hope to put it on your mind and on your heart today. All right, so what is happening over there in the Europe world? Yeah, I was bringing that up. So and thanks to Britt Braza, he brought me a couple videos that I felt were really helpful today. So I want to try to bring up that first. If I can find, which one did I watch? Was I watching it?
Hello and welcome to BBC World News. I'm Samantha Simmons. European countries are continuing to take extraordinary steps to try and stop the spread of the coronavirus. Measures on a scale not seen before in peacetime are coming into force. In Spain, there's a nationwide partial lockdown for the next 15 days, while in France, all cafes, restaurants, cinemas and most shops have been ordered to remain shut. This report from Rich Preston.
3 of Europe's biggest economies have imposed national lockdowns. Spain is Europe's second worst hit country, with more than 190 deaths and over 6,300 infections, and has now declared a state of emergency. Public gatherings are banned and most shops and businesses are closed. Cafes and restaurants will only be able to carry out home deliveries. For the next 2 weeks, people have been told to stay at home unless they're going to work or to buy food or medicine. Begoña Gomez, the wife of the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, and pictured here with her husband last year, has tested positive for the virus. On the streets, cheers of support for health staff, going to work and caring for the sick. At the stroke of midnight, sweeping new restrictions came into force across France. Public places described as non-essential forcibly shut, including cinemas, cafes and nightclubs. The traditional French bistro, an integral part of the country's cultural identity, closed. More than 90 people in France have now died from coronavirus, and authorities say this is the only way to prevent mass fatalities.
J'ai conscience des efforts et des sacrifices.
I am aware of the efforts and sacrifices that are required, and I have confidence in the ability of French men and women to understand the seriousness of the moment and to adopt together the civic, responsible and supportive behaviour which will enable us to overcome this crisis.
Despite the lockdown, local elections are going ahead, the Prime Minister calling for people to come out and vote, but to do so sensibly and keep a safe distance from others. Italy remains Europe's worst-hit country, with over 1,400 deaths. Its national lockdown has been in place for nearly a week, but the number of cases and fatalities keeps rising. On Friday, the World Health Organization said Europe was now the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak, a virus which started in China.
Airlines is to cut 3/4 of its international flights.
Okay, so those are some of the top the top headlines that I'm going to cover today. Spain has decided to lock down. France, I have a friend who lives in France. She said, I don't understand why Italy's right next door and we haven't adopted any of the same measures. They went from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. Right here in America, we have suggestions. We have suggestions like maybe don't get together in large groups. Restaurants are not closed down. Cinemas are not closed down. Businesses are not closed down. Life is continuing on as kind of normal. Did France wait too long? Did Italy obviously waited too long? But these countries, the dense population, the countries more the size of an Indiana or an Ohio with almost maybe, you know, I think it's about double the population. So they're definitely, and including tourism and things like that, definitely. So there's a lot more people in densely populated areas. So it's definitely easier to spread, quicker to spread. So those numbers are jumping. What we saw last night in Italy was another, and it's mind-boggling to me. When we're talking about death numbers, we're talking about people who may have been on ventilators for a long time and succumbed to this disease. And so when I give you the number of another 250 in Italy who passed away overnight, these are extreme. This is wartime for these Italian doctors. This is getting there for France. Restaurants are being closed. We're nowhere near that in the United States. It's very difficult to imagine that we would. The social distancing we're practicing right now, where churches, some are open, some are closed, very few people are going. It's a lot different where people kept spreading the virus load. And the more you're exposed, and this is something that you understand, if you come in contact with somebody who has it, you may not get it. I read today that you need to be exposed to it for a long period of time, sometimes up to 6 hours if you're not, like if it's in the air, okay? Obviously, if you touch something and then touch your face, you can get it. But just being exposed or in a room with someone, you need to be a constant exposure. And that's why some people who, I went around someone, or there was one person at CPAC and nobody seemed to get sick. Well, one person, and were they around this person for a very long time? So the reason you see the high numbers in Italy is you're probably seeing like the vector number. You're seeing many people get it because their child might have it but not show any symptoms. So they're around that person 24/7. Grandparents are around these kids 24/7, or you come and spend time with them in groups. And then you may be in a room with 2 or 3 people who have it, who may be asymptomatic as this spreads. Okay. The more people that have it, the worse it is, the more it spreads. So let me get onto the American Airlines, and I hope I don't, I played the BBC. I'm hoping I don't get any copyright strikes here or anything for that. So I'm going to skip and just tell you that American Airlines is down 75%. And that is worldwide.
Look no further. The Terminal 3, it's a base for America.
Around 13 million people living in metropolitan Manila are under strict new rules set by the government. The country. So
the Philippines has has strict new rules.
It has 140 confirmed cases and 11 deaths from COVID-19. Our reporter Howard Johnson is in Manila.
Well, at the moment we're seeing that the streets here are incredibly quiet. Manila's normally this bustling, busy mega city where even today you could hear lots of noise coming up from the shopping malls underneath my building here. But no, at the moment it's completely quiet, and that means that people are staying in their houses. We went to the southern border of Manila to look at the traffic coming and going. It was quite light, actually. Lots of people have left this city already. There are some concerns that because this was announced on Thursday that the lockdown would happen on Saturday night at midnight, that a lot of people left in the 2-day grace period. So there is also concern that maybe COVID-19 has been spread around the rest of the country as a result of this slow quarantine or community quarantine. Above 38 degrees, they were allowed to leave. So
for 2 weeks following an announcement by Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Austria is to close all of its restaurants and ban gatherings of more than 5 people. The Austrian public have also been asked to self-isolate. The Republic of Congo has reported its first case of coronavirus. A 50-year-old man who arrived from Paris has tested positive. The President of Kazakhstan has declared a state of emergency in the country and restricted people from entering or leaving it. And Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock will shut their doors as a precaution against the virus. Just before we go, take a look at these pictures from Denver in the United States.
So I wanted to show you this. This is Denver, Colorado has a drive-through, and I don't know how you're going to get through that line.
States where long queues formed at a
I think there's 7 in the United States. President Trump said there was going to be a rollout. I don't know that it's rolling out as well as he has expected. Michelle is working on a project, so she will hopefully join us for the second half of our show today. Britt Baza. You know, I was actually headed one direction for my show today because before I started getting everything ready, Boris Johnson and his medical advisors had been advising something crazy. To just allow the virus in the UK to run its course and just deal with the deaths and deal with the hospitalizations quickly. And so when you see a second bump next winter, it'll be a lower one. And fortunately, some cooler minds have prevailed. And now the government has gone, as I told Britt Baza, kind of 0 to 100 there again, recognizing that that's not the way that this is going to help people. We live in an era where we can stop these things from happening. I think that a lot of people want to look back at the Spanish flu and say, well, it killed millions of people and blah, blah, blah. And we made it through that. And do you want those people to die off? I don't. Should we save people? You know, you get into this place where eugenics starts to, eugenics is a disease. It's a mental disease in your mind that says survival of the fittest, just let people die. Sometimes it's not about survival of the fittest, okay? When it comes to a virus, you may just be around somebody who has it. When it comes to something like COVID-19, we don't know. They're saying with other coronaviruses, you may not get an immunity. So it's a luck of the draw. And when it comes to something like that, it's not about eugenics. It's not about the strongest living, okay? So it's about luck. And at that point, you guys, we got to save people, okay? I really, it bothers me to hear it's old people and we should just let them die. Because I feel like that's not an awesome thing. Okay, so let me get to, I want to go to the updates from Europe, and let's see, where am I at? It's a Zero Hedge article that I want to bring up, and I had shared it on my Facebook. And all right, so we'll go over here first, and then I'll bring you some of the updates. I think it's safe to say that the new crisis just killed the Schengen Treaty, as Britt Baza put in the chat. There's still free movement. There's still flights coming into Canada from China. There's still free movement happening in the UK. There are still flights from Italy coming into the UK. That's got to stop if you want to stop this thing. The ridiculous document which guaranteed freedom of movement across Europe Union finally hit something it couldn't bully: COVID-19. Regardless of whether you believe the pandemic is real or not, the reaction to it is real and having real consequences beyond the latest print of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The lockdown of Italy isn't a temporary thing. The suspension of free movement is temporary, but it portends something far bigger. It's the beginning of the real political balkanization that's coming to the European Union over the next few years. Old enmities and prejudices have not been stamped out over the butt heel of oppressive legislation coming from a bunch of disconnected technocrats in Brussels. They have only been suppressed because when there are existential threats, there's no time to or desire to virtue signal. You've got Spain shutting its borders, Italy shutting its borders. France is still open. Germany still wants to stay open. The UK, they haven't been as hard hit as Italy has been. For decades, Germany refused to lighten up on its fiscal inflexibility, believing rightly that it shouldn't subsidize these other places. But still, having the idea that Macron says Europe is one big border. But the European countries are beginning to operate on their own, and that is a good thing right now. So Germans are facing an existential threat of COVID-19 imported into Europe, mostly through Wuhan textile workers in Milan's leather shops. Their leaders will force them to accept looser spending rules. So Angela Merkel said that, and she's a chemist, and she stood in front of her parliament, and it went silent. And she said 70% of Germans will get this, and everybody just went silent. That's huge. So her finance minister, Olaf Scholz, unleashed the full force of Germany's sovereign wealth fund to offer unlimited support to German businesses facing troubles because of the virus. This is as good a cover story for the gargantuan holes in the balance sheets of zombie German banks as they were likely ever going to get, folks. And we talked about this before. You know, a lot of the banks are seeing this as a way to cover the fact that they have been cheating. They've been counterfeiting for a while. So the ECB president, Christine Lagarde, was brought in to ram through the political changes needed to loosen Germany's tie. She knew the only way the EU would survive the growing crisis with its non-functional sovereign debt market was to print money to the high heavens or allow the union to break up. But there's no door number 2 in Europe. All doors lead to Brussels. Germany stood in the way of that for a while. All right, so in the midst of all of this mess comes COVID-19 and the uncoordinated and inept response to it from the political center of Europe to date. Only now are they coming to the conclusion they need to restrict travel after sitting on their hands for a few weeks while Italians died by the hundreds. And do you think that's engendering waves of love and affection among Italians towards Germans? If you don't know Italians, then you don't know Italians at all. And this is your signal that this is the beginning of the real crisis. Because while COVID-19 may have been the catalyst for the breakdown of capital markets were simply waiting for that spark to occur. It's been tinder for a while. And another type of spark, a bank failure from a run on bad loans, could have been handled and absorbed. There was no credit assailant the central planners weren't prepared for, but they weren't prepared for this. So what you're going to see is some European markets definitely going to be taking some hits soon. All right, so I want to go to it's thought I had it up. Where? Okay, this is what I wanted. All right. Not just seniors. French doctors report 50% of ICU patients are under 60 years old. Netherlands, under 50. It's beginning to look like somebody is lying. I don't know if I want to step over here so you guys, I don't know if you can read it behind me or not. Okay, so French and Dutch medical professionals, we've been told, hey guys, don't worry, it's people, smokers in Italy who are dying. It's mostly people over 80. I don't care if they die. I care if they die, but they don't care. Well, guess what? It's getting real now because French and Dutch medical professionals are reporting, this is from Zero Hedge, you guys can bring this up, not just seniors. All right. More than 50% of the 300 COVID-19 cases in critical condition. So there's 300 cases in critical condition. 50% of those are under 60 years old. Some of them mostly are under 50 years old. We're talking about the young part of the population. You've got a 16-year-old right now in critical condition. So France now pushing medical epidemic levels. All restaurants, all cafes, non-essential stores are closed. More than 50% of the 300 COVID cases in critical condition France are under 60. France has 4,500 cases, which doubled. We're talking about the mathematical doubling. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And you're going to go up, and you're going up, and you're going up, and you're doubling cases. Okay, you're not adding the same every day. All right. Doubled in the past 72 hours. Also in France, you can only get COVID-19 tested if you require urgent hospital care. So the number of cases. So I just want you to know what you're seeing in France. You can only get tested if you need urgent hospital care. So there are 4,500 cases who need urgent hospital care. It's not just cases in general. Okay. You can only get COVID-19 tested if you require urgent hospital care. So the number of cases is likely way higher, and the lines to 15. France's version of 911 have been jammed for days. So people with emergencies cannot get through. So we're talking about bottlenecking. People who are in accidents, people who have heart attacks. That's what we're trying to prevent here in the United States. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, over half are reportedly under 50 years old. Today, there are between 40 and 50 corona patients in critical condition on Dutch intensive care units. Governments all over the world are hyping up, racking up, trying to get companies, and this is what I like about capitalism, okay, not having government take control. You got Boris Johnson finally, and my mom was going to be in the chat telling everybody to get out of the UK. Boris doesn't care about you. Well, guess what? I think there's going to be some changes here, and he's waking up, so this might be a good thing. He's asking Rolls-Royce to start making ventilators. That is huge. More than half of those patients are under 50 years old. There are also young people, says the chairman of the Dutch Association of Intensive Care. You have, on Saturday, the AD documented a case of a 16-year-old boy with no disclosed underlying conditions who wound up in the ICU after he complained of nausea and headaches, which actually throws the entire book on what COVID-19 symptoms are out the window. Nobody really mentions headache, and nobody talks about nausea. Actually, our Ohio list said nausea or runny, stuffy nose. They aren't part of COVID-19, but actually I'm finding in some of these articles that it starts in some people with the runny nose. That I got an article up that says that a lot of people made it through quarantine in Wuhan because the virus had mutated, showing either latent symptoms or symptoms not associated with the coronavirus, and it was the coronavirus. This young man, 16 years old, is currently on ventilation in a medically induced coma. As long as he can't breathe properly himself, they will keep him artificially asleep, said his 24-year-old brother. The report suggests that COVID-19 is more than just a boomer remover, as the people, okay, boomer is so stupid, you know, not listening to people who are over 60. A phrase made popular by younger generations who think that they're invincible. Considering that U.S. hospitals are projected to be completely full by mid-May, the implications of the coronavirus impacting more than just elderly are significant. New reports of younger ICU patients echoed unconfirmed accounts from Italian doctors. This is a transcript of WhatsApp audio files.
Chiuso interi reparti.
They closed down the entire wards. They reduced the number of beds in the traditional wards.
Hanno bloccato gli interventi chirurgici,
They stopped all operations.
I medici ambulatoriali a fare I medici per I reparti Covid. Arrivano ogni a fare I medici.
They closed all clinics so they could call in general practitioners. They come in every day exponentially. They tripled ICU beds. They wanted to close our CICU. I don't know. So even the STEM heart attack network was closed. They're decentralizing everything. The heart attack center was closed. Niguarda Hospital is bursting. It's got 30 COVIDs in the ICU. All resuscitations are full. They're we got ICUs to distribute beds and decides who to intubate and who to let die. They don't have COVID patients in cardiology yet. But COVID is devious to identify. Because you don't notice, you don't spot them. We had the cardiogenic shock EPA scan yesterday.
Tutti i giorni, l'infettivologo non aveva detto un cazzo, il radiologo stasi e congestione del piccolo circolo tutti i giorni, non li becchi in
we had cardiogenic shock in the CICU for 5 days.
Shock cardiogeno per 5 giorni.
EPA scan yesterday after I did it every day. Infectiologist didn't say anything. The radiologist, stasis and pulmonary circulation congested. I phoned the radiologist and said, listen, in my opinion, he's got pneumonia. Now they tested him. But surely he's a COVID patient. I'm willing to bet. You can't recognize it. But most of all, you have no idea. They don't say this on TV. How many young people, I mean 20 years old, need CPAP and have horrible pneumonias with no comorbidities, meaning they don't have any other things that would cause them to succumb to this. How many 70-year-olds born have pneumonias? A ton. It's unimaginable. Doctors aren't even, there aren't any devices, even quarantined or screened with a test anymore. They tell you if you have a contact but have no symptoms, come to work. If you have symptoms, you get to decide whether to work or stay at home. It's tragic. Now they're hiring all non-specialized med graduates.
Al Policlinico c'è un solo padiglione su 3 o 4 che non è destinato
in a certain area, there's only 1 or 4 wings that are not for COVID patients. 50 pneumonias expected a day. It's dramatic. We absolutely need people to understand this.
Ciao a tutti. Non so chi verrà destinato questo messaggio.
So here's another woman.
Di mandarle una nota audio un po' esplicativa di quello che sta succedendo. Io sono Martina, sua cugina, alcune di voi mi conoscono, altre no, forse solo per sentito dire. E faccio
This is a woman who's a cardiologist in intensive care
in terapia intensiva a Milano. Allora, la situazione
is very serious in the sense that this
molto seria, nel senso
very
che
contagious.
fondamentalmente questo virus che sta girando è estremamente contagioso.
It's true, some have no symptoms, some come through without too many problems, but it's also true a lot of people develop what's called bilateral interstitial pneumonia. And fundamentally needs assisted breathing. We don't have drugs, as antibiotics don't work against these viruses.
Stiamo dando dei cocktail di farmaci che si usano in virus tipo l'AIDS.
We're given a cocktail of drugs used against viruses like AIDS, but experimentally we don't know if they'll work or not. The only thing you can do in these cases is intubate the patient so as to make the machine breathe, rest the lungs, waiting for the immune system to defeat it. It's true most deaths are old with existing conditions, but there's a lot of young people in the ICUs. Our youngest is 38 with no underlying conditions. The real problem is that a lot of people need assisted breathing and there are not enough ventilators for everyone. I have an intensive care in cardiology asking for one of my ventilators. We only have 2 now. I gave it to them and one patient that went out of intensive care the day before. Normally in these cases you keep the ventilator near because they can go in and out of crisis and need to be re-intubated. If she does, there's no ventilator there. Fundamentally, they told us starting from now on we'll have to choose who to intubate, priority going to the young or no comorbidities. At another hospital, they're not intubating people older than 60, which is really, really young. The situation is very serious. It's very contagious. 14 days of completely asymptomatic incubation and can infect an incredible amount of people.
incredibile di persone, per cui il concetto è che l'unico modo.
So the concept is the only way for it not to be a massacre is to have at least amount of infected, and if they are, to for them to be on a long time scale. That way, if we have 10,000 people who need ventilators infected all at the same time, we have 3,000 in Italy and 7,000 die.
10.000 hanno bisogno di essere intubati e ventilati, 7.000 muoiono. Invece riesco a,
if I can slow down the contagion, when the new people get sick, presumably the old will have freed the ventilator for them.
Quando si ammalano i nuovi, i vecchi intubati, verosimilmente saranno guariti e avranno liberato il ventilatore. L'unica cosa che si può fare.
The only thing you can do are the things you're already doing. Stay at home, no cinemas, blah blah. You know, guys get it.
Il più possibile di stare.
Guys, this is serious. It's not a joke. What's happening in Italy is for real. And that is why people are, our governments here in America are acting the way they are. And so give them a break, because they are watching these videos, they're listening, they're on the phone with these doctors. Okay? They're talking to them. And I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to be aware of what is going on around the world. So Newt Gingrich is in Italy, and he said, I am in Italy amid the coronavirus crisis. He says, America must act now and act big. The COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, I'm going to close this, hang on, poses two threats, public health and economic. I am living in Italy, where my wife Calista is the ambassador to the Holy See. I have watched firsthand as the Italian government has worked hard to contain the coronavirus while imposing strong public health measures to try to get the pandemic under control. All schools are closed in Italy. All churches were closed, but the Pope is pushing back because, in my opinion, he wants more people to get sick. They want to open churches up again. He's an idiot. All weddings and funerals are postponed. All restaurants are closed. In fact, all stores except grocery stores and pharmacies are closed. People are urged to work from home unless they work in special designated factories. The streets are almost empty. These steps are not an overreaction. The coronavirus is out of control in northern Italy. As of 6 p.m., there were 15,000 total cases, 12,839 active cases, over 1,100 deaths, and there were 1,200 recoveries. The hardest hit region is Milan, and has had to improvise its health system, and has been deeply stressed by the sheer number of patients in Milan and Brescia. Field hospitals have been set up in the fairgrounds, as the local hospitals have been drowned in patients. Because the demand for respirators and intensive care has been beyond previous planning, doctors have been forced to the triage, as we're talking about. This is the most thing you don't ever want to think about. Yesterday, 158 passengers arrived in Rome on direct flights from the United States. The impact of restricting travel is clear and continuing. The number 2 airports in Milan and Rome are being closed. The main airports in Italy's 2 largest cities have radically decreased flights. The Colosseum is closed. It had 21,000 tourists a day. You have over 1,100 deaths in Italy with the population, and this was written yesterday or something. I don't know if this has been updated, so it's 250 more. Today, with a population of 60 million, would equivalent for 5,400 deaths in the United States instead of the 41 deaths. I think we're at 58 deaths in the United States today. And so America has a uniquely vulnerable population. We have tens of thousands of homeless people in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. If the coronavirus ever began spreading among those folks who already suffer from malnutrition and health problems, and then the question is, was this planned at that point? Because there is Operation 201, where Bill Gates, and we'll talk about that maybe more on another day, but there was in October 18th of this year, the Bill Gates Foundation put on a simulation of a novel coronavirus that went from pig to bat to human and killed 65 million people in the world. So obviously they were preparing for this. Let's see. Here we have, I'm going to close that. I'm talking about Italy. I'm going to talk about China, guys, because I stumbled across a video today, a couple videos, and a a Chinese woman's blog that suggests that China has been putting people back to work way too early, that they have not contained the virus, that their hospitals are still overflowing, but they shut down the other hospitals as a PR stunt. And there's a video of them acting it out. It is a false flag. There is a video, and I don't know why it's viral yet, and you guys are going to see it here first on Resistance Chicks, but it's legit. They're acting. It's like a movie on them shutting down the makeshift hospital, and that was for the world to see, not because they didn't need the beds or need the hospitals anymore. The propaganda that China is putting out, we've seen it with the One Child Nation movie. They love propaganda. It's like their favorite thing to do is to lie and manipulate the world and then laugh behind your back and my back. So Italy's not lying. Italians are all, you know, at least the one thing they're doing is being honest. Praise God for that. Our government isn't even being honest, telling us that there will be a website up today and places to go and get tested and blah, blah, blah. But we don't have, that's not up. That's not going. So in the last 24 hours, 250 people have died in Italy due to the coronavirus, setting a record for the highest death toll in the nation. The nation has seen in one day from the virus. A total of 660 people have been confirmed to have been infected with the Chinese coronavirus into Italy. So that went from 1,500 on Thursday to 1,766 on Friday. That's as much as I've got up to Friday. The death toll up to 266 as of Friday. The coronavirus is a beast. It has evaded us and will keep us company for a short time. Everyone's mobilization is essential for this period to be shortened when it comes to understanding the effects of the restricted quarantine taken by the Italian government. I would say 2 weeks optimistically. I don't think so. It's going to keep going, guys. It's going to keep going. So, in the midst of all of this, don't know if I want to try to, I'm going to, we have a ton of video, and I'm going to try, here's my big try, to bring up for you guys these videos so you can watch them. Well, I guess you can kind of see them. You just want to listen. E allora sì, abbracciamo più forte. We will be praying, Donna Terry. Tutto tempo che è passato tempo bello. Se l'uomo non esiste niente più, abbracciamo stanno, senza voglia di ricordare. So Italians are singing. I showed you guys some of these on Sunday, but there's been more. So those are some of the fun things that people are doing to stay upbeat, singing from their balconies, and that there's some good things happening for sure. I want to play over here. Let's see. I have a couple more of those videos, but I'm not sure if I'm going to bring them up just yet. Oh, there's my article I wanted on the seniors. All right. Let me see. Close this one out. Sorry, guys. I'm normally getting mine up and going while Michelle takes a minute to talk. So, a newborn baby has tested positive for this. And has raised concerns over the way the infection is transmitted. So according to virology professor at Imperial College, the child tested positive for COVID-19 in North Middlesex Hospital in North London shortly after being delivered, and became the youngest person to be diagnosed with the disease. China said that the babies born to pregnant women didn't have it and didn't carry it. How did this baby get it? But urged caution, said the positive test did not necessarily mean the child had COVID-19. So we don't know how it was working. It is important to say at this point in time that the detection of COVID-19 nucleic acid on the sample from the child does not necessarily mean the child was infected. It could have come from the mother at the time of delivery. Further follow-up of the infant will clarify. Previous data from China said they didn't have infections at the time of birth. Neither did sampling of breast milk immediately after birth contain detectable virus. So that is kind of an interesting thing. How did this child get COVID-19? The hospital's observation of a possible neonatal transmission is unexpected and needs further confirmation. He said the risk of the newly born child being nursed by a mother who is known to be infected is a matter that will need careful consideration. So that is something for people to think about. I shared this one. I'm talking about it because this is the biggest thing. Coronavirus victims in Italy will be denied access to intensive care if they are aged 80 or more or in poor health. We know that that Italian doctor over the phone had told us over 60. Should pressure on beds increase, and it's a time of war for them. And it's pretty sad. He who lives and dies. And why am I bringing this all to you? And I'm gonna read this for you. This is something that I wrote. There's Barry's messages to me. I believe God wants me to share something, especially to those who think that American response to the coronavirus may be overblown. Maybe you are scared or frustrated or angry. I hope this helps put things in a positive Christian perspective. America, and yes, I'm doing world news, but this is for everyone too. You are the land of the free, the home of the brave, one nation under God. You were forged in the fires of heaven to be a light and a beacon to the world with hope and freedom and liberty. But most importantly, we have a new opportunity to show God's love to a lost and dying world without constraint. We're not constrained by the CPP or Islamic totalitarianism. Most importantly, we have the new opportunity to show God's love to a lost and dying world without constraint. Oh, and I have been disheartened to see many posts about how this virus just kills old people. You will be old one day, and Jesus taught us to treat others as we would want to be treated and to care about other people. What you're not understanding when we talk about how other things kill people is that at that level, raise your hand if the hospitals, barring a Katrina or an earthquake or a tsunami, the hospitals have been overwhelmed. Okay, that's what we're talking about. And my favorite one is this. I've seen many different comparisons to death statistics. Please don't look at the number of people who die, because many people are making it through just from life-saving techniques and things like this. But for instance, I've read someone, and I think Adeline, you just put this forth, so listen to this, listen to the way I feel like the Lord wanted me to explain this to people. And you're not the only one who talk about the car accident thing. Let me explain it. I just read someone who argued that the reaction is overblown because there are 40,000 people, about 40,000 people who die every year in America from car accidents. That is a very high number, and they are right. But we do things to mitigate those accidents. We have speed limits, stop signs, stoplights. We have an age restriction on when you can start driving. We have a test you have to take in order to get a license. This is to make sure that you are competent enough to get behind such a deadly vehicle. We even have police to make sure you abide by these rules. And without those restrictions, if you just let anybody from age 0 on drive. If there were never any stop signs, if there was never any speed limits, there would be way more than 40,000 deaths a year. We're not talking about the number of deaths a year, guys. Put that to the side. Let me see. Although it is fun to drive without a speed limit, really, in Montana. However, most places aren't like Montana. Too many people. What if you knew that there would be a series of accidents that would overwhelm the hospitals, and you knew beforehand? What if you knew that the medical professionals who were taking care of those accident victims would actually incur the same injuries that they're taking care of? So if they took care of somebody who shattered their legs, that a doctor would shatter his leg. What if you knew that that would be not just a possibility, but would happen, because you've seen it happen when this other rash of accidents came through? Okay. What if you knew that the medical professionals would get sick or even die taking care of this rash of accidents? Many things we can't stop, like car accidents, and some things are completely out of our control, like the weather. But what if, by taking it on the chin in the short term, you help save lives, you help hospitals from being overrun, and there might even be some silver linings along the way. Silver linings such as not rushing everywhere, spending more time with your family, eating healthier food at home. Michelle and I are in a niche industry which relies almost exclusively upon people taking vacations or traveling. We absolutely love what we do, but we, along with many others in the travel type industry, have experienced it almost shut down and a month worth of cancellations. That is hard to stomach, and yet if I can tighten my belt to save some lives, and yes, even the lives of 70 and 80 years old, I am willing to do that. Guys, I want to do that. I feel blessed and called to do it. Why? Because when you give unto others, God will give unto you, especially when you do it with a cheerful heart. It is not going to be easy, but it's not going to be forever. And if you are blessed to be in a job that is continuing on through this crisis, or even more blessed to be able to continue your job and you can work at home doing it, please consider helping those around you who are low-wage hourly workers who may have been laid off. You know, there's cruise line workers, and there's restaurateurs, and there's waitresses, and all these different people who are not getting tips, and they're not. If you have a steady job, consider looking around your neighborhood, in your family, in your little circle of people, and helping them, okay? Because we shouldn't need to rely on the government to take care of our fellow man when we should be the ones doing it ourselves. Sunday, today, is our National Day of Prayer. Trump has put that forth so we can come together, one nation and one world under God, and ask for his divine protection, not just from the virus, but from the economic stability, from fear, from anger, from the fear of the unknown. Many people don't want to look at something because they're afraid of it. There are many bad things in the world, but that's when the gospel comes in. I'm telling you to look at the bad thing. Look at it through the eyes of Christ, to look it straight on, know the facts, and then ask God to help you, to allow God, and many of you are Christians, okay? So I'm imploring you right now in the power of God to begin to minister to your friends and family peace and truth, okay? Some people keep spreading the lie that it's just like the flu. That's not true, guys. I just played for you the video of the doctors in Italy. They've got people on ventilators. They're turning people away. It's not fear-mongering to tell you the truth, okay? What you're saying, but people who say that say, well, I don't even want to know if somebody has cancer because I'm too afraid to think about it. Now you got to look it straight in the eye. And you have to bring the gospel to it. Jesus heals, he protects. There is a story from CBN, I believe, Christian Broadcasting Network, where there's a church and they had COVID-19 victims, but they all made it through somehow. And supposedly the government came to them and said, what's in your blood? Why don't you guys have this anymore? And they said, you have no idea what kind of question that is. We have the blood of Jesus. And so right now, wherever you are, I want you to just lift your hands up and say, blood of Jesus, flow through me right now. And blood of Jesus, flow through me to flow through to others. Because guess what? We serve a God, a man who died on a cross For by his stripes, you are healed. I'm praying for a friend of, I know this, I'm praying for a woman right now who is in the hospital with pneumonia in both of her lungs. And in Jesus' name, if you guys would pray with me right now, God, I just pray that that pneumonia leaves. She's a mother. She's got a 12-year-old daughter. And I pray that pneumonia leaves her lungs right now. And that you, from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet, her name is Abby. And I pray that you, I believe that's the one that we're praying for. From the top of her head to the bottom of her feet, that you give the doctors wisdom. We curse and we bind that sickness, and we ask you just to send that far from her body. We don't know for sure what it is causing it. I know that testing is hard to get. And so, but she does have the symptoms of something like this. So she definitely needs prayer. Anyways, so remember, there's a big difference between stocking and hoarding. So give if you have neighbors who need things. Love one another, care for one another, lift one another up. And remember, if God brings you to it, he can bring you through it. Ultimately, he is our healer. He is our provider. And if you're lonely because you can't go out, he's our friend. Much love to you all. We got this, guys. God's got this. And I wanted to play that because in the midst of all this, I recognize that some of it is getting out there. It's getting a little crazy. So before all of this, and I love you guys for being here. Jack Russell, Australia has cases. They're in the midst of their summer right now. So no, the heat is not probably going to kill this thing. I hope I don't get the virus. I have mild asthma, but I'm 26. The priest I live with has diabetes in mid-60s. He's in the danger area. So I'm praying that you don't get it either. Guys, Poland has closed its borders at last. So there you have it. All right. So I think I wanted to go in order with some of my articles on from the UK. I want to make sure I want to get this right because not right, but I want to get you in order because I want to get you where was Boris Johnson just a few days ago. So this is what I'm going to play for you. Just a few days ago, Boris Johnson was in the herd immunity camp. And that's when Patriot Gallery said, I'm going to get in the chat. I'm going to tell everybody in the UK just go into like a high hill and just camp out for a month.
The British government wants to achieve what it calls herd immunity. The idea that when enough people are infected with coronavirus, it effectively goes away. This is greatly disputed, to say the least. But what would that involve? 60% of the British population is 39.6 million people. To date, in China and Italy, 14% of cases are severe and involve hospitalisation. That would equate to 5.5 million people in the UK. 5% of cases in those countries are classed as critical. That equates to almost 2 million people. And assuming a low mortality rate like that seen in Korea and parts of China of 0.7%, that would mean 277,000 deaths. The British approach is an outlier. No other country is openly pursuing the idea of herd immunity. It is deeply controversial. The British government wants to achieve what it calls herd...
Okay, so that was deeply, and it is deeply controversial, and they have, thank God, walked back this. But that is where they were headed, like, just yesterday. But I'm going to show you some, that they've kind of walked that back a little bit. We have this interview here. I loved your little shenanigan zone in the trash can. That was pretty funny. There was something else you guys said. I was looking at. Leah is me. Michelle is working outside. She'll be back soon. Let's see if we can just
ultimately let it run through. It's incredibly important, but it's important to understand that there is a very, very profound disagreement within the scientific community about how to address this. At the moment, everybody in Britain is pretending that there is only one scientific opinion on this. What is being done in China, what's being done in South Korea, what's being done in Denmark, where they've just closed the schools, is completely different to what is being done in Britain. Other countries are trying to suppress this and reduce the caseload. Britain is trying to follow a theory of herd immunity. In other words, they believe it's impossible to get on top of this disease, and that therefore you have to ultimately let it run through the population. That is a very, very big choice. It's not a scientific choice. It's fundamentally a political choice. These are judgments about what the population are prepared to put up with. These are judgments about how long people are prepared to have schools closed. These are judgments fundamentally about economics. Personally, I actually think it's very irresponsible of politicians to keep suggesting that this is a question simply of science. It gives them a bit of cover, puts the blame on the scientists, but the judgment ultimately is a political judgment. And I think the government has made the wrong judgment, partly because I don't think they're being transparent with the public. When the public understands that implicit in this argument is that they would rather people died earlier to prevent more people dying later, the public will be very troubled.
Very true. Very true. The public will be very troubled. I wanted to, and the public has, I was bringing up a couple of these videos here on my thing while I was waiting for you guys. Not only will the public be partly troubled, the public is troubled. And good news for y'all is that I think Bojo got some mojo and learned that was a no-no. So he's changed his tune. I'm going to play this video here. I don't agree with all of it. Okay? I don't think that China has got a handle on this thing. I'm going to show you why in a little bit. So preface that, put that in the back of your brain when you watch this. Don't think to yourself, hey, if we do all these things, we'll end up like China and just eradicate the disease. It's not going to happen. But I do want to play this for you to give you an idea of the measures that China did go to.
To be fair to the Chinese, they've taken a hit for the entire world's population, and they've seen it that way. This is the mindset that's developed within the Chinese population. We are defending our friends, our family, our community, our city, our nation, and the world from a virus that has no immune protection in any human being on Earth. On the 23rd of January, China was locked down. Had they not locked down Hubei and much of China, the disease would have spread rampantly. And so not only have the Chinese succeeded through locking down areas in containing the virus, but their environmental protection measures, such as temperature control, wearing masks, and social solidarity and social awareness of conquering the disease, they call this a people's war against the virus. It's perfectly true that people don't like the idea of a lockdown. They think it might be, oh God, we're emulating totalitarian China. Actually, that's not how the people in China regarded it, and that's not how we should regard it. We're dealing with an epidemic which is uncontrollable at present, except by the type of quarantine measures been introduced in Italy now and in China, and the type of getting ahead, proactive action that needs to be taken.
A lot of Chinese propaganda there.
And defeat the virus. But, you know, you're only as safe as the weakest link. So if Britain is saying we're not going to control the borders, how are you going to stop the spread of the disease to other countries from Britain? Reaction and proactive policies. So proactive gets ahead of the situation in order to protect the maximum numbers. Reactive responds to the situation, to the data as it comes in order to stage your actions according to your economic interests. Proactive means you do something to prevent something happening. If a government knows that a virus is coming, then you lay the foundation in advance for what will happen. Now, Wuhan, the Chinese were accused of acting too late, information suppressed and so on, which may well be true. But when they acted decisively, and when they decided to act, they started building hospitals for new capacity immediately. And the problem in Britain is the reactive response is they're not building those capacities in. In London, for example, we have thousands and thousands of empty offices sitting all around the city, which could be converted into emergency treatment centres of one form or another. The technical ability to do this thing is there. but is the will there to take on the interests of private owners of buildings which are sitting empty? And that's why China, of course, has this advantage, because they don't have to worry about that. They will do what is necessary to achieve their objective through their people's war, through popular engagement of the masses and the organization of the structures of the state. If the Chinese are able to conquer the disease in the next few weeks, which it looks like they will, then they should invite in Chinese experts and medics to come and help, offer support inside the communities, because they've got the most experience. This is a global virus epidemic, but it must be dealt with globally through international solidarity. We need to establish a sense of social solidarity on a local, national and world scale. Fighting the epidemic requires the active involvement of the mass of working people to try and enforce policies necessary to stop the spread of the disease.
Right. So, guys, don't worry. I don't buy into globalist shenanigans. I know that a lot of these people can go from seemingly wanting to help people to taking over the world in, again, 2.5 seconds, like Mayor Bill de Blasio has decided that it would be great to federalize factories to make masks and things like that. We do not need that. We have the greatest thing about the human spirit is that people are great entrepreneurs. If the factories are there, just ask them, like Bojo has done, which is kind of interesting, you know, that you've got Bojo getting out some mojo. Ventilator shortage. Boris asks manufacturers to switch production to help the NHS. In an unseen move, he has asked. The unseen move not seen since World War II. Prime Minister has called on manufacturers such as Rolls-Royce, JCB, and Unipar to start mass producing ventilators in what is being dubbed a national effort. You can do this. You can ask. Just ask. You don't have to take things over. We don't need to be Nazi Germany. We do not need to be the CCP. And to get to some of your comments here. Britt Baza says, Leah, I was speaking to a person 2 days ago that an 80-year-old woman was crying and pleading with the manager of a supermarket in Essex because she couldn't get a toilet roll and hasn't had any for a week. Gosh, somebody should share. Just come and share. They're there. The toilet. No, people aren't using more toilet paper now than they did a week ago. The toilet paper is there. We need to share. So St. Mark the Evangelist says, no holy water, hymn books, shaking hands at peace, Holy Communion on the tongue, or collection at Mass here in England. Have they stopped all of that where you were at, Sandra? And, you know, I see some really good thing. Firehorse really hates China, and I don't blame him at all. So, it's the only local area government and churches should run the show within their city or town, not national level, or people will use it like now. You know, Edward Wallace, you know, you've got some really good points there. So I wanted to get to some of your comments there. And do Americans use bullets like toilet paper? That's pretty funny. Yes, the Chinese people have traveling outside the country in early December. This guy is you know, kissing up to the Chinese, and exactly. China has been lying the whole time, yet they want to blame us when they wouldn't work with us on handling this and didn't want to let us know about it when it was happening, and it's still happening. If you're with me, I want to get through Europe. I know I always put like the first thing that, you know, the first title is China Lies, It's Still Happening. I have video for you. Okay? I have video from March 13th that shows that the hospitals in China are full. And that they should not have torn down that hospital. It was all for show. But I'm going to make you wait. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of stuff I want to get to first. So, and I can't believe, like, here we are, resistance chicks. I feel like when we break things like this, that we should be on a larger worldwide scale. But then I think to myself, we have people from England, we have people from Poland, and you guys can share this with your friends, and you can share it with your neighbors. So we are worldwide. Hallelujah. Glory to God. And then the message gets out there because you guys, you have portals, and you have us in Poland, and you have us in Italy. I don't know if we have anybody from Italy. You guys have us in the UK. We've got viewers in Australia. We've got viewers all over America. Go ahead and tell me what country you guys are from in the chat. Just just knowing that you guys have your computers open all over the world, that these vibes are going, right? It's so exciting to me. So exciting. Like, I know people, you guys send us stuff and I appreciate it, but listen, it floors me. I can't even tell you how excited I am, especially for our Sunday shows, because the worldwide people that we get to touch, we get to communicate with, it is the biggest blessing in my entire life. I just absolutely love it. It's just, there's something about community and touch. It just makes me want to cry. I get so excited. You guys all over the world. It just is amazing to me. I feel like I get to go to all of y'all's countries just by doing this show. And so it's such a blessing to me. And it's a blessing to all you guys. You know, you guys have friends from all over the world. You in your chat with people from Poland and, you know, Australia and everybody from the UK all over. It's just amazing that you guys have friends from all over the world. It's so amazing. And I'm so glad we get to facilitate some of that. So they're joining Mr. Johnson on a conference in which he will stress the vital role that British manufacturers must play in combating the pandemic. The chief executive of the NHS said the government-run healthcare system will need every part of society and every industry to ask what they can do for their effort, what they can do to help with the effort. We got some a little soap maker video I'm going to play for you. I think Britt sent me. So on Sunday, Health Secretary Matt Hancock said that the NHS currently has around 5,000 ventilators, but added that the government will likely need many times more, well over 100,000, according to some reports. Yikes. They have 3,000 in Italy, 3,000, and they're not coping with that. So if you produce a ventilator, then we will buy it. No number is too high, he told Sky News. The ventilator machines are crucial in the treatment of the coronavirus. Patients' lungs are filled with a sticky mucus that prevents them from breathing on their own. Post-mortem examination of Chinese people who have died from the virus have revealed the sticky mucus. Countries across Europe are struggling to cope with ventilator shortages. Italy, the country most affected by the coronavirus outbreak in Europe, told its only manufacturer of the machines to quadruple its monthly output, going so far as to send members of the military to help meet the new demand. I'm just wondering, if you don't have cases like this, can you send some to Italy? All of a sudden we found ourselves facing an operation of titanic proportions. We had to produce in a couple of months what this company would normally produce in 2 years. Germany has placed an order for 10,000 ventilators in a German technology company. And you see that is a nationalist spirit. That is not, oh, you know what, Europe has this many ventilators, let's send them all to Italy. They're not, nobody's sending Italy any ventilators. Like, hey, we love Europe, blah, 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 but they're not sending them, they're not using all the ventilators that they need right now. There are people dying in Europe. So literally the EU just died today. Because if you're not going to send a country who needs ventilators, then what's the use of the EU anyways? Nationalists. They're all a bunch of nationalists. Crazy. All right, soldiers with training in biological and chemical warfare are also sent to deep clean empty public buildings should they be needed to be converted into hospitals or morgues, says a defense source told the Daily Mail. Health Secretary Matt Hancock compared the fight against the coronavirus to the hardships Britons endured during the Blitz, writing that Britain must do everything they can to tackle the virus. Our generation has never been tested like this. Our grandparents were during the Second World War, when our cities were bombed during the Blitz. Despite the pounding every night, the rationing and loss of lives, they pulled together in one gigantic national effort. Our generation is facing its own test, fighting a very real and new disease. So far, there have been 21 deaths in a total of 11,040 confirmed cases in Britain. In absence of intervention, I would expect between 20 and 30% of the population to be infected by the summer. What does Farage have to say? Farage on the coronavirus. We're all nationalists now. Boris is negligent. And because a lot of the calls of negligence went forth, I do believe that that's what we've seen, the switch there by Boris Johnson. Nigel Farage has said that the actions of the governments across Europe over coronavirus show the concept of solidarity, so championed by the EU and their globalist friends, now counts for nothing. We are all nationalists now. European politicians heavily criticized President Trump's decision as nationalistic and opining the viruses don't recognize borders, while European Commission said the EU disapproves of the American leader's unilateral decision made without consultation of Brussels bureaucrats. The Brexit leader, Nigel, pointed out that European governments are themselves acting unilaterally, nationalistically across the bloc without the authority of Brussels, threatening the would-be superstate's central mythology that it alone can guarantee Europeans' collective safety. Everybody is looking after number one, even if it is understandable for individual nations to focus on their own people. The idea of a bloc such as the EU being willing or able to guarantee the safety and security of all of its members is surely shattered, Nigel Farage told the Telegraph, criticizing one of the jewels in the crown of the European Union, the passport-free Schengen area. Mr. Farage observed, Austria has closed its borders with Italy unless Italians can show a certificate of clear health. Given that it is virtually impossible for anybody to prove good health, thanks to testing only taking place when people show symptoms of the virus, the question must be asked, what price the Schengen zone now? However, Mr. Farage also condemned Prime Minister Boris Johnson for what he sees as a lack of leadership by failing to take more aggressive measures against the coronavirus, and particularly for the apparent failure to screen arrivals from Milan on Sunday after the Italian region of Lombardy has declared a state of emergency. So the government policy is that it's desirable for COVID-19 to kill hundreds of thousands of people so that we develop herd immunity. I just can't believe it. Sir Patrick Vallance says that at least 60% of the population needs to contract COVID-19 in order to develop herd immunity to prevent further transmission in the future. And what I heard an LBC caller called in a doctor to Majid Nawiz, and she said, if you lock away all of the elder people and you get 60% of the population immune, when you let them out, you will no longer have 60% of the population immune. You lose all the herd immunity, and then it hits again, right? So he wrote, from a government that is still scrambling to get a grip on this crisis and to lead, this was something negligent. People will forgive a leader who is seen to have done his very best in a difficult circumstance. President Trump appears to be seen, that's the way President Trump appears to be seen, which way the wind is blowing. What they will not forgive is a leader who fails to take proper care of his people. Boris Johnson needs to take the heed very quickly. He added that even if President Trump's admission in the United Kingdom, which he just put back, the United Kingdom is on the travel ban. The Brexiteer further criticized Johnson's government for its scientific expert claiming like 60% of Britons need to catch the Wuhan virus to develop herd immunity, as coronavirus could return annually just like the winter flu, and there's no such thing as immunity to it. So government policy is that it is desirable for COVID-19 to just kill hundreds of thousands of people so that we develop herd immunity. Just can't believe it. And neither can I. Let's see. In Israel, a quarantine breaker was subdued and arrested by a swarm of police in hazmat suits. An Israeli broadcaster has aired dramatic video in an eerie dystopian sign of where things are possibly headed in terms of securing quarantine zoned in urban areas. And at a moment, various governments around the world are militarizing their COVID-19 outbreak response planning. Security forces in Tel Aviv are seen in full protective gear surrounding and then subduing to the ground a man who had allegedly violated his home quarantine and made his way to a nearby train station. They found the guy. I'm going to try to make him big. So that is kind of crazy. A subsequent Israeli police statement issued Saturday night said the police call on the public to listen to directives and instructions from the health ministry. Not following them disrupts the national effort to fight the outbreak of the virus and its spread in Israel. Additionally, there is an absolute prohibition on spreading fake news whose sole purpose is to plant panic throughout the public. So they prohibited that, I guess. Another angle from the rest, so that's pretty crazy. And then I read that Israel is actually going to track people's phones who have it. I don't know if I like that idea, honestly. No, I don't. No. I'm not all about that. No, I don't like that. It's not a question. Netanyahu under fire for announcing cell phone tracking of coronavirus victims. Prime Minister Benjamin, this is not Ebola. Okay, guys, so I'm going to put it down a couple notches on that one, okay? No, this is wrong. You don't get to track people unless they've committed a crime. All right. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday night announced that Israel will begin using digital tracking tools relying on cell phone data to track carriers of the coronavirus. Until now, I avoided using these measures in the civilian population, but there is no choice, he says. He said that we are at war with an invisible enemy. However, unlike Taiwan, the GPS data that Israel will use will not be used to determine whether those under quarantine are indeed staying in their homes as ordered. And Taiwan has 200 confirmed carriers of the virus and has employed the use of cell phone data to track the spread of the virus. It should be stressed that in any case, there is no intention of using these capabilities to enforce or monitor quarantine instructions. As part of the legal consideration, it was decided to put a variety of restrictions on the measures that would be used, mostly in terms of the duration of the operation, the legal oversight of the operation, the use of information that is collected. I'm not sure I like this. So the left wing here thinks that this is a blow to freedom. They're blowing people's freedom right out the water. So anyways, it's funny how the left becomes libertarian in times like these, don't they? Oh, it's so funny. So where do I want to go next? All right, guys. You asked for it, and I'm going to tell you about it. What is Defender Europe 20? Let's see if I got any anything here. Don't drop the ball. Don't fall for China's disinfo. Don't worry, we ain't no fan of China around here. I'm just showing you. I was just showing you how the UK wasn't doing anything, and I think because of some people shouted out, now they're going to be doing something. Yeah, the Chinese have people. Where am I? Down here. I'm down here. Okay. Please do what? Please do what? What? Oh yeah. Defender Europe 20. Okay. This is the stupidest thing to keep going on right now. Did you know? Okay, so NATO was created. You know, we're going to defend. United States are going to help defend Europe from Russia, and we're going to be there, and we're going to fight together and spend $1 trillion a year on this thing. Waste of money. Do you guys know? I'm not even going to talk to you about how much money $1 trillion is, but that's how much NATO uses. Which it's a military conglomeration. No, walk back, disband NATO. I think it's stupid. But anyways, what's even more stupid is this. They have military exercises planned for April and May in this place called Europe. And in Europe, they have this thing. It's called coronavirus. And they want to send 20,000 of my fellow Americans over there. This is not smart. What is Defender Europe 20? To deploy the largest force from the U.S. to Europe in 25 years. At a time like this, are you kidding me? This is so stupid. You can't do this right now. And then they're going to draw 13,000 pieces of equipment and then move personnel and equipment 4,000 kilometers to participate in other exercise, and then they're all coming back to the United States. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is the United States, and here's the California, Kentucky, Ohio bases. I think they're not. I guess they're not pulling from any in Oklahoma, but they're pulling from all these different bases, and then they're all gonna go back home after trouncing around Europe. 20,000 of them. What is this? What is this? Over the next 5 months, I guess it was the next 5 months, it's starting in April, 17 allied NATO members will participate in military maneuvers across 7 European states in Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. All of the host nations have reported infections from the COVID-19 virus. Host being an operative word when it comes to also talking about the relationship with the U.S.-led NATO alliance. Germany's health minister, Jens Spahn, is quoted as saying the coronavirus outbreak has become a global pandemic and the worst is yet to come. In all, 37,000 troops are involved in the Defender Europe 20 war games, the biggest contingency since the end of the Cold War nearly 3 decades ago. The U.S. is sending 20,000 personnel. Most of those troops will return to bases located in at least 20 American states. Thus, the risk factor of spreading disease across Europe and the U.S. is significantly increased. Thank you, NATO. That's our $1 trillion are going to spend, work for. Going ahead with the European war games looks especially ill-advised, given that the U.S. forces in Asia and Pacific have canceled similar military exercises that were scheduled in South Korea out of fears of the COVID-19. The Defender Europe 20 events underway come amid reports that the U.S. commander in Europe, Lieutenant General Christopher Kovali, may have actually been infected after attending a recent military conference in Germany. This sounds so great. The top health advisor to the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staffs, Air Force Brigadier General Paul Friedrichs, also admitted that the number of COVID cases among the Pentagon's armed forces may be higher than is actually being reported. The seeming lack of cautionary measures by the U.S.-led NATO alliance is in contrast to the growing public concerns for containing the disease. Sporting events across Europe, including major soccer matches. Why? It's war games. Major soccer matches are being canceled or held without attendance. The Six Nation rugby tournament has been thrown into disarray from match fixtures being rescheduled. A big match between Ireland and France due this weekend is postponed until October. In Britain, there are calls for Parliament to be suspended after Health Minister Nadine Dorries was reported to have been infected. We know that Spain's Prime Minister's wife has it. Justin Trudeau's wife has it. Come on, guys. It would therefore seem quite reasonable in this context of pandemic risk that such a multinational event like NATO's Defender Europe 20 be called off. As it proceeds, the war games appear to be a perfect vector for accelerating disease spread between the two continents and beyond. Indeed, not parking these war games seems the height of carelessness. How fitting that NATO should be so unresponsive to real need. This lumbering 29-nation military organization, which consumes a combined annual budget of $1 trillion, is a creature of habit and slavish ideology nearly 30 years after the Cold War with the Soviet Union. The world has moved on, but not, it seems, NATO. It continues to hold its war games, supposedly defending Europe from Russian invasion, when we have a real invasion that your missiles can't stop. If NATO can't adjust to such glaring world realities as the end of the Soviet Union 3 decades ago, then no wonder its response to coronavirus is hardly fleet-footed. It's the military equivalent of a dinosaur whose functioning is no longer supported by its environment. End it. End NATO. End it. End it. End it. End it. All right. No European show would be without talking about what's happening in Turkey and Greece's border. I believe that Greece has decided to build a concrete wall now. There's a little war happening right now between Greece and Turkey. Greece has set up giant fans to blow back the tear gas from the migrants. On February 27th, Erdogan made good on his threats to send millions of migrants across Europe. Nobody wants this, but they're finally, Europe is saying, no, don't go to the border. The border's not open. If somebody tells you can go to the border, the border's open, that is not true. Turkey is not an enemy, and people are not just means to reach a goal. We would all do well to remember that. I thank Greece for being our European espada, Greek word for shield, says the Greek Prime Minister. So it's absolutely insane what's happening right now on that border. I think I have some video, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Here we go. I have another. Greece erects massive concrete blocks on border to halt migrant wave from Turkey. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but they're working on everything they can to keep the migrants out. that Turkey is specifically sending their way on purpose. As the rest of the globe is busy locking down borders amid COVID-19 pandemic, Turkey has reportedly kept its migrant wave to the EU corridor open, resulting in continued chaos at the Greek-Turkey border points and its desperate asylum seekers tried to gain any way possible into the EU. This now includes not just an ongoing militarized response on the Greek side to keep thousands from crossing illegally, but reportedly now erecting a huge concrete blocks at key land crossings. The completely shuttered border crossings with Turkey are beginning to resemble war zones. Greece on Friday placed 5-foot concrete blocks at its Kastanzis border crossing with Turkey to stop the entry of asylum seekers. Let's see if we can. So it's bringing in these large concrete blocks to fortify my head. Get my head out of the way.
خرابش کردی ریدی توش.
That's crazy, guys. That's crazy. They're stacking them. The Greeks have decided not to let anybody in, so we'll see how well that goes over. Here we have Spain totally quarantined, but everyone took a minute at the same time to clap from their windows for doctors, nurses, and all those working in hospitals. You can't really see it, but you can hear it. Russia. I love it. Listen. We here in America, we do not hate you. Okay, we know that you guys have been put through the ringer. We know that they fake this whole thing with Putin and Russia. People on the right do, conservatives do. We know that we are not at war with Russia. I'm glad that you are here. I love Russia. Okay, I have a Russian aunt. And I'm not a communist. I've been to Russia. I've been to Moscow. Russians are beautiful people. I love you guys. I'm glad that you're here. Hello from Russia. 200,000 tanks near our border. So you guys are guarding your borders. Good for you. Oh, that just makes me so excited. More people from around the world. Based Russians. That's a good thing if you don't know. All right. So that is just, it's a beautiful sight to see and a sound to hear. People, I have some more good ones I'm going to share with you, but let me share a sad one with you first. This is the Bergamo Daily newspaper. Okay, and what somebody did was that they showed the date. It's at 4.4 million views. The date, I believe, is somewhere early February, I want to say, or late February, February 23rd, where it had obituaries, 1.5 pages of obituaries. This one place in Bergamo, one town. Then recently, I want to say just a couple days ago, they've had 10 pages of obituaries. And I just want to give you a scale.
Buongiorno cari amici,
Buongiorno.
Così solo per darvi un'idea di come siamo messi, l'Eco di Bergamo domenica 9 febbraio, una pagina
one page
e un qualcosina.
And a half page.
Andiamo invece a guardare l'Eco di Bergamo di oggi, venerdì 13 marzo.
March 13th.
One. 2, 3,
4,
5,
5,
5,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8,
8,
9,
9
10
e 10. Una semplice influenza. Grazie.
I learned a little bit of Italian at some point in my life, and I can count to 10 mostly. I guess like cinque, as I think I mixed up Spanish there a little bit on my 5. 10 pages. Dice pages there in Italy of obituaries, and I wanted to kind of give you that, a sobering reminder there. All right, let's see here, you guys. Time to buckle up, people. Don't buy a ventilator, buy turmeric, curcumin, stops pneumonia and even fibrosis. Yeah, they're saying that a lot of people with Indian spices are really, really good for you. Let's see. Streaky Bacon says, I've been wearing a suit of armor, but people say I'm showing off. But I'm still healthy, so it works, obviously. I'm sure. Jack Russell says, I'm self-isolating, although the shop is 30 seconds away. Leah looks kind of Russian, now that I think of it. I'm actually very Swedish, but it's fine. It's funny, Tom. All right. I got a little Irish in me, and a little German, but mostly Swedish. Scandinavian. All right, so where am I going to next? I told you, I promised you some happy news. I will get to it. I wouldn't say happy, but kind of fun, I guess. This is a little video I have. UK wartime style 4-month elderly quarantine planned. This is crazy. Elderly Britons will be told to self-isolate for 4 months under the government's wartime style effort to combat the spread of the Wuhan coronavirus. The government of the United Kingdom is expected to impose a swath of new measures to fight the spread of the virus. So this is on the heels of, hey, Bojo, you're not doing this. You're not doing anything. We can't just like expect people just to die. Okay, that's not a policy. Okay. Within the next 20 days, all those over the age of 70 will be told to self-quarantine in their homes for up to 4 months. That's awful. Boris Johnson's government is concerned that the quarantine will lead to the death of elderly people from neglect, and will call on friends, neighbors, and relatives to help the older people during their isolation. We're looking for a huge community effort. Health Secretary Matt Hancock confirmed that the imposition of self-isolation for the elderly is an action plan, but added that the government will not enact the plan until it's right to do so. You're not like, it's not saying that they're going to do it yet. We absolutely appreciate this is a very big deal for the elderly. Aside from the quarantine of the elderly, the government is planning to enact temporary closures of public places such as pubs, bars, restaurants, as well as banning mass gatherings. So the government is also planning to requisition private hospitals, hotels, and other buildings to aid its efforts against the virus. The measures are intended to prevent the nation's socialized healthcare system from becoming overburdened, which could lead to rationing of care. Everything is aimed at making sure the NHS is not overwhelmed. Next week, the government will introduce emergency legislation to combat the spread of the virus, giving the state the power to detain any vehicle, train, vessel, or aircraft, and the ability to close ports if there are insufficient resources in the event border security officials become sick. The emergency legislation will also empower the police to arrest and forcibly quarantine those who are sick but fail to self-isolate. That, America has not done that. It's so funny how you go from zero to like totalitarian Nazi, like overnight. Like, it's just absolutely insane. We're going to take the powers to make sure that we can quarantine people if they are a risk to the public. Yes. So you go from, hey, herd immunity to I'm going to arrest people and forcibly quarantine them. Like, I just don't understand like the middle ground of like suggesting that people, and you can let it go through slowly if you make suggestions. I just don't understand the 0 to 1,000 mentality there. In China, this is, I'm not sure when this article is from. I just wanted to give you an idea that at least 5 people in China have disappeared, gotten arrested, or been silenced after speaking out about the coronavirus. And that is from February 20th. And I just wanted to just keep reminding you of that. The doctors and the whistleblowers who were the first to speak out that Chinese people are not our enemy. The CCP is the enemy of the world. Chinese people are so kind and they're so giving and they want to help each other. Okay. But it seems that the most evil of them get to be in high positions in the CPP, and that's just the truth. Okay? So I just wanted to remind you of that. Okay, guys. Jennifer Zhang's vlog as a video, and I'm going to bring it up now. This is what you guys have kind of been waiting for. Did you see that China is blaming America for actively infecting them? And one poster was trying to get NATO to side with. That is true. Yeah, for real. Did I talk about the mortality rate? We talked about the rate exactly. The known right now is 17,000, and there are, I think, and the numbers are changing by the minute. So last I checked, it was like 1,100, but then 250 died overnight. So you're at, you know, I think you're at, you know, close to 1,400 almost. So the death rate at 1,000 and 15,000 was 15%, or was 15%. So you're looking at huge numbers here. Why did I say that? Not 15%. You're looking at 1,000 and 15,000. So what's that exactly? You're looking at a high rate of infectious disease. All right. And it's just astronomical, 7.5%. It's just huge. It's just huge. It's out of this world. We have a P.O. box. I ain't scared.
I gave him the P.O. box.
Okay.
I ain't scared. No, I went out to Home Depot today and I just sprayed all over, and I'm pressing the self-checkout button, and I'm like, God protects me with my
use Thieves Oil. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what company. We're not going to list any companies.
You can make it yourself, and you can buy Thieves Oil at like CVS and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, we love you guys. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
If the virus in Wuhan was made by scientists in the lab.
It's the truth. God bless. Oh, I touched my face.
You can touch your face if you've washed your own hands.
I came from washing my hands.
How is anybody supposed to be, you know, how are you supposed to wash your face? How are you supposed to,
I don't know,
you know, pop a zit? I mean, you're allowed to touch your own face after you've washed your hands.
But I blew them a kiss and it might get into the thing and...
Social distancing. See, perfect. Internet, perfect for social distancing.
We're out there. We're out there and we're all around this pipe bending machine, which we weren't bending pipes, but it holds it. And so we've got our friend Tim and Kansas and myself, and we're literally like this close.
No social distancing.
And we're like, we are not 6 feet away. And Tim's like, so funny. He's like, get out of my bubble. It was so great. You have to make light of these things, but it is serious. Try to do the very best you can. All right, you guys. Good night. God bless. Oh, my button didn't press. Hang on, let me try again. There it goes. Huh?
Let's go.